I thought it might be interesting to show you all my usual filming makeup routine and also have a nice chatty talk about a recent book that I read. So, a little bit out of the norm for me, but I'm really interested in watching makeup, and so I thought some of you might be as well. I'm gonna be blind for most of the video today, so let's just hope that I'd already set up everything to be okay. One part of makeup that I think is really important, even before putting any makeup products on your face, is to take care of your skin. So before I film, and usually at night when I do my heaviest skincare routine, I like to put on this toner. This is from COSRX. It's a Korean skincare brand, and it's the Galactomyces alcohol-free toner. I used to use the SK2 toner, but that's really expensive, and I got it as a gift, so I kind of just used it up. But this is supposed to be a pretty close dupe. It has the same active ingredients that makes the SK2 toner so well known and so like a miracle potion. So yeah, I'll spray this on my face. And even though I have pretty combination skin, I tend to prefer the products that care to the drier skin because I'd rather not mattify my face. So I have this Cetaphil moisturizing cream. I just picked this up just because it was there. I really wouldn't go for something so rich because this is like super rich, but this works fine. I usually use this on a really moist face, and I use just a little bit so I don't like slather it on. Before I start, I like to put on some lip balm. I use just regular old Vaseline. I don't like wearing foundation because it's so heavy and it usually gets kind of cakey on my skin, and I hate looking cakey, so I stick with just regular concealer. This is the Maybelline Fit Me line, and it's in the shade Sand Sable. You can see it's very well loved. I've used the same concealer for the past 5 years, so I really like this one. So a book that I recently finished was called The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, and it's in the same series that she has called The Wedding Date. I'm not sure if the series is called The Wedding Date or not, but the first book is called The Wedding Date. I hadn't read the first book, but I'd heard some things about it. So the book I read, The Proposal, it's not a sequel, but it's a companion novel featuring probably two characters that were briefly mentioned in the first book. These characters in The Proposal are friends of the main characters in The Wedding Date. So the book starts off with our main character, Nicole, with a K, and she is at a baseball game with her boyfriend, and he randomly proposes to her in front of everyone on the big screen. And she says no because they've only been dating for 5 months. She didn't really like him that much, and so general humiliation, but people don't know her side of the story, so they obviously take the rejected guy's side of the story. And these two people who are at the game, Carlos and his sister Angela, see her and kind of come to her rescue before she gets bombarded by the media. So they sweep her away, and it kind of starts the relationship between Nicole and Carlos. So I usually just stick to concealing my under eye, just the outer kind of 2/3 area, and I don't like to put an excessive amount. The whole triangle thing kind of scares me. It's a lot of product in a very small space. After I do my under eye, I usually kind of scan my face to see if there's any other places I want to cover. I'll usually kind of do my forehead and kind of around my nose because that's where I get a little red. And then I'll, put on my chin. I've only recently noticed that I have like a dipped chin, and I don't know if y'all can see my dipped chin. I heard that cleft chins are like a genetic trait that you pass down, but I don't know if this dipped chin thing is. Anywho, I also want to preface that I'm definitely not a makeup artist or well versed in makeup. As you will soon see by the products that I have, it's all drugstore, all very affordable. That's kind of my style. I honestly think a lot of drugstore brands do the job the same as brands you'll find in either, Sephora or like luxury brands. I mean, to a certain degree, obviously. Try to cover up my redness. It's taken me a few tries to get my filming makeup kind of the way I wanted to. If you look back on my past videos, I've had some interesting looks, and they really weren't at all what I liked or my style. And so I've only recently really been kind of getting down the routine that I like. So now I'll move on to my eyebrows. I have two products that I usually like to use. One is this Revlon Color Stay. It's a brow pencil and it has this nice brush at the end. I don't really like this pencil. It's kind of stiff and the color is a little it's just hard to use. So for precision sakes, I'll usually go with the e.l.f. eyebrow duo. This is a really famous one. Anyways, back to the proposal. Carlos and Angela basically go out to a bar with Nicole and they kind of meet Nicole's friends. They rehash this whole proposal disaster. And this is where we kind of get to the part of the book that I was immediately this is why this is kind of a polarizing-ish book. The author is not subtle in the way she's trying to write her points. I distinctly remember reading one scene where Nicole wanted to share the kind of nasty texts that her ex-boyfriend has sent to her after he had proposed. But Carlos had sensed that she wanted to kind of dish with the girls, and so he politely excused him and his sister so that they could kind of rehash the situation. But the author had to spell it out for the readers, being Carlos saw the look that Nicole had and knew that she wanted privacy, so he politely excused, she wrote it out for all the readers, which not a terrible technique to use, but I'm just we could probably tell, or we could deduce that Carlos probably wanted to do that, or she could have just included the rehash that she did after Carlos left, where Nicole was oh, I wonder why he left so soon, and her friends look at her and go, he wanted to give us privacy to gossip about the text. It's so obvious that it feels like the readers can't make their own assessment of the undertones of the situation. My ego as a reader is not that big, but I would like to think that even romance readers in it just for the casual relationship would be able to deduce things like that, Yes, I am using the little newbie brush that comes with the kit. Don't judge me. It's got a really nice tip end and I really like it, okay? I usually sculpt out the bottom of my eyebrow and then fill in the rest. And I always try to get a nice tapered end and then more sparse at the top, a little more filled in at the back. So at the bar, basically everyone could tell and was kind of hoping that Carlos and Nicole would have kind of a thing, because, Carlos didn't want to intrude, but you could tell he had the hots for Nicole from the beginning, and his sister could tell too. And so their relationship kind of builds from there. They started as friends, and this book definitely moves from the friends to lover territory, but the plot is definitely not the main issue of the book. In fact, the plot is probably the best part of the book, I find, so I'll start from there. After my eyebrows, I like to add a little bit of bronzer. I don't really like blush. I prefer bronzer, and I use the NYC Smooth Skin. This is in the shade Sunny, so I'm just gonna pop a little of this on my face. And I like to concentrate it on the back half of my cheekbone. So, kind of lifting it up and then dragging it upwards. So the plot of the proposal is actually really good. I think that the timing and the pacing of their story is probably one of the most natural progressing ones that I've read in a romance in a while. You get to witness a lot of the moments where their friendships actually build and their relationships build. They do a lot of kind of mundane things, like they made food together, or they would have talks, and they would actually like write out the conversations they would have. And you see how naturally they get closer and they kind of get to know both each other and their families better. I'm going to move to eyeshadow now, and I'm going to use NYX's Proof It eyeshadow primer. Another thing I found really nice about this book was the representation that we had. So Nicole is Black, Carlos is Latino, Nicole's two friends, one is Korean, I think, and I'm not sure with the other one, but I mean, already we're having a much more diverse cast of characters. So for eyeshadow, I keep it simple. I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Mad for Matte eyeshadow palette. This is the Jewel Pop one, and it looks really nice because it has all these really nice colors here. I don't go that crazy. I go for the very tan brown colors. Let's get to the parts of the book that weren't so great. I think the writing style was very cheesy. And cheesy in a sometimes unlikable way. You know, like sometimes you go into a book expecting it to be cheesy, and that's fine. That's the purpose of the book, right? But then sometimes you get into a book that's like trying to be serious and to push kind of a narrative about its characters, and it's just so like cringy. It's just ugh. And in this case, I'm talking specifically about Nicole. So Nicole, I think it's fair to label Nicole as a feminist, but the unlikable kind. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to say that feminism itself is unlikable or that feminists are unlikable. But the way Nicole is written is just so like stereotypical. So Nicole, obviously the book has had her share of really crappy people, especially men, demeaning her in her line of work, in her personal life, and she's quite frankly had enough of it. So she went through this whole dilemma of whether or not she should invite Carlos back to her apartment just to make sure that her ex-boyfriend Fisher hadn't sent anybody, or that any one of his crazy fans hadn't come along to try to take revenge on her for embarrassing him. And the whole time her biggest dilemma is that she doesn't want to have to like rely on not just like a person, but specifically a man to defend her. Is she gets really upset at Carlos specifically for like taking the lead and telling her what to do. For example, he goes into her apartment, she follows behind him, and then she says, oh, maybe we should check the other rooms inside the apartment. He says, stay here, I'll go check. And he just like, he goes and checks. And she gets really upset at the fact that he didn't like ask her, or that he didn't, you know, like let her lead the way into her apartment to check for strangers. Like, the whole situation doesn't make sense to me because it feels very hypocritical. Like, she asked this guy to come into her apartment to help check for intruders, but she won't let him independently check for intruders. And it feels very based in the fact that he's a man and that she wants to be very independent. The whole situation in and of itself felt very forced to me, and like was trying to make a message about Nicole's like personality. And it's similar things like that that kind of made me dislike some of the things that Nicole was saying or doing. It just felt very cringy and not necessarily an antithesis to the point of being a feminist. It seemed like Nicole was very adamant in her independence and especially hated depending on men for help. Like, not just like, she depended on her friends for help too, and to like come with her to like the self-defense class so that she wouldn't feel so alone in a class like this, but she wouldn't admit like freely to needing to depend on Carlos to check her apartment for possible intruders. Carlos also exhibited a lot of your typical masculine stereotypes of needing to take care of everything and everyone in your family, and he freely admits it in the book. We find out why later, but it's a large part of his character and his personality. I really like the black from this palette because it's like really dark. It like is actually really dark and opaque, and so I like using this instead of eyeliner just because it gives it a very soft look. Y'all know eyeliner, man. It's worse than eyebrows. I'm satisfied. I know when to stop and when enough is enough. If I'm feeling especially festive, I'll add a little bit of sparkle to the center of my eyelids. So I'll take a little bit of a shimmer, just pat it down the center. I also like using a little bit on there, just to use my fingers a lot because I feel like I have better control. Perfect. So for my basically last step, I'm going to be putting on some mascara. I have the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise. This is just the regular formula, not waterproof. I was reading some of the reviews for the proposal before I'd finished it, and a lot of them were quite, like, not scathing, but they weren't very positive. And while I can understand where they're coming from, the kind of like corniness and cheesiness of the book can be a little hard to take sometimes. Having read enough bad romances, I feel like this one wasn't terrible, honestly. It just wasn't the best. It was kind of that nice, like, beach read, casual, pick it up whenever you want and like put it down whenever you want to. It doesn't really matter. That kind of read. Now, would I actively recommend this book to anybody? I'm not quite sure. If you are a seasoned romance reader, you might just enjoy this because it's not bad. As a book that really tries to develop these two's relationship, I feel that it did a decent job, and so you shouldn't shy away from it based on some of like the top reviews. Alright, so my face is done. I usually don't put on any lip products. I might put on lip balm, or I might stick on a super bright red lipstick. Who knows what I'm in the mood for that day. But I usually don't put lip products because I drink a lot of tea and coffee when I'm filming. For example, coffee. I don't particularly like having to reapply because I keep drinking beverages. This is the final look. It's very natural. I tend not to go overboard or do too much because it's just easier this way. So I hope you enjoyed this style of video. It's a little new to me. Let me know what you think. I just want to do a nice chatty, relaxing video. Who knows if I'll do it again. If you enjoyed the video, click like, and if you want to see more, click subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.